Do you think you need a photo in front of you to draw a realistic portrait? I actually drew this entire portrait completely from my imagination. No photo, no reference. And before I even drew a single eye, I started with just a simple sphere and a few basic lines. This is exactly where the Loomis method comes in. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how I build a face from imagination, starting from those very first lines. And if you're enjoying it so far, hit that subscribe button and stick around for the rest of the video. It really helps motivate me to keep making these. All right, let's get into it. Since I'm drawing this completely from imagination, I don't have a photo or reference sitting next to me that I can just copy from. So before I do anything else, I need to figure out what kind of shape the head is going to have and what angle I want to see it from. That's why I start with a simple sphere. But this isn't just a circle. This sphere is basically going to define the overall volume of the skull. And this simple shape is going to become the foundation for the entire face we're about to build. Now I'm going to draw a line right through the middle of the sphere. This line is really important because it tells me which way the head is turning. For example, if I want the character to be looking toward the right, I'll curve the center line in that direction too. The closer this line gets to the side of the sphere, the more it feels like the head is turning in that direction. Now I'll add the horizontal line across the face. This roughly gives me the position of the eyebrows. And once we have these two lines together, we're not just looking at a circle anymore. We're slowly starting to build a three-dimensional head. If you're still with me at this point, hit the like button. Because from these few simple lines, we're going to build an entire face, completely from imagination and without using a reference. Now it's time to turn this sphere into something that looks more like an actual head. I start defining the front of the face from the side of the sphere, and then I add the jaw. And there's something really important here. I don't want to just guess where the jaw should go. I need to think about the structure of the skull. Because when you're drawing from imagination, you don't have a photo telling you exactly where everything should be. That's where understanding structure becomes really important. I start with the big, simple forms, and then I gradually build the smaller forms on top of them. At this point, it might look like I'm moving really slowly and keeping everything super simple. But honestly, this is one of the most important parts of drawing from imagination. When you don't have a reference, you can't just look at something and copy it. You have to understand what's actually underneath those lines. The skull is here, the jaw is here, the face comes forward from this area, and the neck needs to come out from underneath these forms. So every line I draw is actually defining a three-dimensional form. And that's one of the main things I want to show you in this video. Drawing from imagination is about building, not copying. Now that the overall shape of the head is established, we can start figuring out where the facial features go. First, I'll mark the position of the eyes, then the nose, then the lips and chin. But I'm still not getting into the details, because if I start drawing eyelashes, pupils, and tiny details on the nose right now, I might realize a few minutes later that the entire position of the eyes was wrong. So for now, I'm only concerned with placement. I need to know where the eyes sit in relation to the center line, how far down the nose is, and how much space there is between the nose and the lips. Once these proportions are working, then we can move on to the details. Now, I've got a question for you. When you try to draw a face from imagination, what's the hardest part for you? The shape of the head, the eyes, the nose, or getting the proportions right? Let me know in the comments. Even if you're just starting out, tell me what you struggle with the most. I want to see which part is the hardest for most of you, so I can use that to decide what to make the next tutorial about. Alright, now it's finally time to start turning these construction lines into an actual face. I'm going to lighten the initial guidelines and start building the real forms. For the nose, I first think about the overall volume. Then I add the tip of the nose and the nostrils. For the eyes, I start with the overall shape of the eyelids and only then move on to the pupils and smaller details. But even here, I'm still thinking about one thing: volume. Because I'm drawing from imagination, I constantly have to imagine how light would actually fall across these forms. For example, the nose isn't just a line on the face, it's a three-dimensional form. Light hits one side of it, while the other side starts moving into shadow. Another thing you might notice a lot in the time-lapse is me correcting things. I erase some lines, I draw them again, I move certain parts around. And honestly, that's completely normal. Drawing from imagination doesn't mean getting everything right on the very first line. Actually, one of the most important skills is being able to spot a mistake early and fix it before you start adding all the details. Because the further you get into the drawing, the harder it becomes to fix a big mistake. Now that the main structure of the face is in place, we can start working on the shadows. This is where I start giving these simple forms more depth. Under the eyebrows, around the nose, under the lips, under the chin. These areas help the face start feeling much more three-dimensional. I first block in the big shadow shapes. Then I gradually soften them and add more detail. And there's a really important rule here. Form first, light and shadow second, details last. Not the other way around. Because if the form is wrong, shading is only going to make the mistake look prettier. Now I can finally start getting into the details. I'll work more on things like the eyes, eyebrows, and skin texture. But even here, I don't need the same amount of detail everywhere. I'll keep some areas sharper and let other areas stay softer. This helps guide the viewer's eye toward the most important parts of the face. And little by little, that sphere and those construction lines you saw at the beginning of the video almost completely disappear. If you go back to the beginning of the video, you'll see that everything started with a simple sphere. No photo, no reference, not even any details, just a simple structure. And little by little, we built more and more volume on top of it. And honestly, I think that's the most exciting part about drawing from imagination. Something that exists only inside your head at first slowly starts appearing on the paper right in front of you. And this is the final result. A portrait built completely from imagination, starting with nothing more than a few simple construction lines. So if you think you need some special kind of talent to draw from imagination, maybe you should start somewhere else. Start with structure. Learn the basic forms. Understand volume. Control your proportions. And then, finally, add the details. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you want to see more drawings like this, subscribe to the channel. And now I want to hear from you. What should I draw or teach in the next video? Do you want another tutorial? Or should I try drawing a specific character or face? Let me know in the comments. I want to make the next videos based on what you actually want to see.